Hello, and welcome to the fifth Fetter. And this is the sixth lesson, the mirror about blaming, and it is a continuation of the last lesson. So, if you haven't watched the lesson where I'm talking about the verbal indicators, that is the lead in for this lesson. So, make sure that you go back and watch about the verbal indicators before we continue. We're going to talk about the mirror of blaming, and you know now about the bubble of reality. You know that everything you say, everything you think, everything you hear other people say, so that is what you think you hear other people say, all that is just a reflection of you. And with the verbal indicators, we're entering an area that's really, really painful to talk about, but it's only painful to talk about if you haven't worked with the toxic starting point. So if you still have lingering experiences about fear, anger, guilt, and shame, and you still, catch yourself being the aggressive bully or the passive aggressive bully or the chameleon, you still catch yourself there, then make sure that you go back to the second fetter and you listen through the lesson about the toxic starting point and the emotional indicators before you continue with this, because from now on, from now on, I assume that you know that there is no fear, anger, guilt, and shame. That you know that it's just a feeling arising in you. It's not you who is angry. There's no I that can be angry. It's just a feeling arising of fear, anger, guilt, and shame. There's no you that can experience that. And I assume that you know that. So when we talk about blaming is very much about a refusal of accountability. That something is happening and you refuse to own that. You do not want to own that that feeling that arises with it. So blaming is very much tied in with an action. Shaming is very much tied in with the person. But blaming, it's about the action. It's a feeling of guilt about an action, or a feeling of suppressed anger about an action. And when we blame other people, we blame an action, something that happened. We blame another person. Shaming is more about the person. So it goes on the personality, where the blaming and the guilt, it's more about an action, something you have done. And when we blame, something is happening and you're blaming another person instead of feeling into what it is. So it can be anything. And when you then point finger at Janice and blaming her for not, doing this or that, or not saying the right thing at the right point, or not, putting her cup in the dishwasher, whatever it is that you're blaming on her. It's about you seeing her getting away with something that you are not allowing yourself to get away with. So therefore, she needs to suffer the consequences of how you feel in you. So it's very much about making love conditional. It's very much about having been raised in a way where you believe that that if you do not do things in the right way, you are unlovable. And it's also why that if you have a tendency to blame, and when you have a tendency to blame, it's very much where it's pointing. And that's why it can be, really provocative and difficult in many, many ways. But just remember what we talked about in the second fetter, where we talk about the aggressive bully, that is the one that is intimidating people, right? And the passive aggressive bully is the one that is manipulating people. So when you're blaming in that situation, when it comes out of your mouth, you know now with the bubble of reality that you're talking about you. So look into the blame that you're doing right now. Does it have that intimidating factor? Are you the aggressive bully right now? Is it something that is, about aggression, about fear of something happening to you, about safety, about power? Is it something about that? So you are intimidating. Or is it more about the passive aggressive bully where you're manipulating? It's either those two, that we're intimidating or manipulating. And you know now that that is not a thing. It's just an underlying belief which you can stay with. So when you're blaming, it's because there's a feeling happening in the body that you do not want to feel. And that's why you're projecting it out on other people so they can feel it, so you don't have to feel it. So it's about an action, and it's about something that you find very, very unlovable. You make love conditional. That if only this didn't happen, then you would be lovable. That person would be lovable. If they just did the right thing. So difficult to love my partner when he doesn't take the bin out or whatever. So it's tied in with an action. And if we go back to the second fetter, where we talk about the aggressive bully, the passive aggressive bully, and the chameleon, do you remember when we looked at this one? Now we would like for you to completely dissolve the idea of the aggressive bully, passive aggressive bully, and the chameleon. We're ending the lower fives, and we're ending the idea that there is such a thing as fear, anger, guilt, and shame, that there is such a thing as the aggressive bully that intimidates, the passive aggressive bully that manipulates, or the chameleon that is hiding. We're about to dissolve that. That is what we're doing in this lesson about the verbal indicators, all of them. They're going to be multiple, but that is what we're doing. And that is also what we're doing with the inquiry that you're going to hear in just a moment. So where you're at right now, when we're looking at blaming, you are in a situation in your life right now where you're blaming someone for something, or you're blaming yourself for something. I would like for you to look at this first. Are you intimidating? Do you have aggressiveness or fear, anger, guilt, and shame? I would like for you to feel into that. Feel into that aggressiveness of blaming, shaming, complaining, and explaining. And know that it's only a feeling of unsafety. There's no you to be unsafe. Or if you are blaming with that manipulating slant that you want people to do things for you in a certain way, and you're not asking to have your needs met, but you're manipulating, and you're blaming to have manipulate people into doing what you want them to do, then feel into that passive aggressive nature of the fear, anger, guilt, and shame, and feel into that feeling of the passive aggressive blaming, shaming, complaining, and explaining. It's only a feeling about being unsafe. It's only a feeling that you do not matter. You can't ask directly to have your needs met. You need to manipulate people into doing it. Or if you recognize yourself as the chameleon, are you hiding right now? Feel into the feelings of fear, anger, guilt, and shame, and the underlying feeling of blaming, shaming, complaining, and know that it's only feelings of fear that makes you believe that you need to hide, and you're blaming people because there's an undertone of fear. Back into the body. The inquiry that we're going to do with you in just a moment, it's going to point to that part of where blaming really comes from. And we would like for you to make yourself comfortable and follow the instructions in the inquiry as many times as is needed for you to really dissolve that underlying belief that blaming really is a thing. So blame is based on conditional love. And when you hear yourself blame, either towards others or towards yourself, then really feel into that belief that you have made love conditional. Feel into how your love is conditioned on them doing what you want them to do. It's your fault. But there's no such thing as fault. There's accountability. There's no such thing as fault. There's no such thing as guilt. So really feel into that diversion, because when you feel blaming, either you're saying it or you're blaming yourself for something, it is a diversion. There's a feeling in the body right now that is so icky that you cannot stay with it. Are you sure you can't? Breathe into it. Just close your eyes and breathe into it, and stay with the body and allow it to be there. So make yourself comfortable, and then we're going to make an inquiry, and I will see you shortly. Enjoy.
In just a few moments, see if you can settle into your seat. Take a few deep breaths and close your eyes. Now bring to mind an incident when you caught yourself blaming someone else for doing something that you felt was wrong. Picture it as vividly as possible. Now feel into the body to see what sorts of emotions and physical sensations are showing up. Does it feel good to be in your body right now? Did it feel good to be in your body when the incident was first happening? Can you replay in your mind what you were saying when you were casting blame on the other person? Was it something like, "You always do this," or "You never listen to me," or "You did that and now this is happening"? Did it feel like there was a charge of potency to the accusation? Did it feel like there was truth behind the words? If so, the words felt true because they were, but not for the reason you thought at the time. Take whatever the sentence was that you directed towards the other person and now turn it around. What you were saying about that person was a direct reflection of something you were saying about yourself. So, for instance, if you accused the other person of always being late, which is why you missed your appointment, turn it around and ask yourself, when am I not punctual? This might be literal or figurative. When are you not showing up for yourself or others in the way you think you should be? They are not living up to your expectations, so in which ways are you not living up to your own expectations? Be honest with yourself. Tied in with these expectations of how the other person should have behaved are many different underlying beliefs. One is that you blamed the other person in the hope, conscious or subconscious, of making that person feel guilty for their actions. They did something wrong and they should feel ashamed of themselves, right? Maybe we frame it in a way that we are blaming them for their benefit, so they'll learn from their mistakes and will value you and others more appropriately in the future. But what is that urge to guilt really pointing to? Is it your own inherent feelings and stories of your own guilt that you have been buying into? Picture that you have swapped roles now. You have just done what the other person did that made you upset. Now feel into the body. How do you feel about it? Do you feel sensations that we associate with the label guilt? Does this feel familiar? When else do you feel this in your daily life? And why does this seem to be uncomfortable to you? Why can you not live in this feeling of guilt all the time? Is it because you feel like if you ignore this sensation that you're going to be a bad person? That you're going to be damned? Or that you're not worthy of the love and respect of others? Do you feel like love from others is conditioned on you behaving in a certain way? Is it possible to make a transgression that cuts you off from love and compassion? And do you feel that you will withhold that love and compassion from yourself if you do not behave in a certain way? And now ask yourself, in that situation, what did the other person do that you are not allowing yourself to do? Can you not do it because you worry that if you did do that thing, if you were late or inconsiderate or whatever else, that you would no longer get the approval or love or consideration from others? Who decided that love and care must be conditional? Another inherent assumption nested in the act of blaming is that it is possible for someone to be at fault, that it is possible for someone to make a choice, in this case, the wrong choice, and then to willfully act out this egregious action so that you are inconvenienced or harmed by it. They are at fault, and you are a victim of circumstance. But again, let's turn it around. In what ways are you the aggressor, either with yourself or with others? In what ways do you victimize others or yourself? Can you be in a body where you are at fault? Can you see that what others do to you, that you also do to you, and that you may also do to others? Which of your actions or beliefs are you refusing to be responsible for? Look deeply into this and see in which ways you are the one you have been irritated by all along. But then, if this feeling of someone being at fault still seems plausible to you, begin to question if you or anyone else actually has any control over anything. If you haven't seen through the first fetter yet, this can seem a more difficult question, but if there is no stable entity here who exists in any meaningful way, then who or what could possibly make a choice? And who could be responsible for it? And if there is no chooser, then how do we justify the concept of fault? Isn't what is happening simply what is happening? Without referring to imaginary thoughts about the future or alternate possibilities of the past, can anything be different right now? There can be causes and effects, but fault implies intentionality. And if it is fully seen that there is no one who could have intention, then how could fault have any meaning? What is happening now is the effect of too many causes to count, but there is no human intention necessary in making any of it happen. Sit now for a moment and reflect on this inquiry. Listen to it over and over again as needed. And then, when you're ready, open your eyes and go about your life, bringing this new awareness into your interactions with others and with yourself. Remain curious and vigilant about your thoughts and actions, because they're all pointing to the places that could use the light of your awareness.
Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that helped you in looking into the underlying belief about blame, so you can see that there's no one to blame. Neither any time you try to blame other people for something or blaming yourself for something, it's just a diversion from an ego sensation in your body. Look into if it's coming from the intimidating part or the manipulating part. Look into if you need to work deeper with the emotional indicators from the second fetter, if you need to work deeper with the toxic starting point, because where we're at now, we would like for you to completely dissolve that idea that anyone are to blame for anything, and really look into that delusion of the conditional love, if that is even possible. So to sum it up, in the mirror of blaming, look into where that aversion is pointing. Can there be in a body that is experiencing this type of blame? And why does the primary sensation arise at all? What is it in your body that you're trying to avoid feeling into? What is it that needs your attention? And then I would like for you to create sentences. Ask yourself, how is this about me? So whenever you are blaming other people for something, Be quiet for a moment and just ask yourself, how is this actually about me? And create full sentences, write it down. But you cannot mention other people in those sentences. You can only mention yourself. You need to make it completely clear that all this is about you. Something about you that you find so unacceptable. It's also looking into if there's any connection between the primary sensation of blame and the need to react. Really looking into that diversion and follow everything that it points at in your bubble of reality. What is this actually about? What is this actually pointing at? And the last point is, does this feeling of blaming, this aversion, even exist? It's just a feeling. It's not you who feel blame. That is not possible. It is blame that is arising, just like hearing is arising, smelling is arising. There is a feeling arising, and that is a sensation in the body, a contraction in the body with a label attached to it that we call blame. See if you can remove that label and just stay with that icky sensation in the body and see where it takes you. See where it takes you. It's an invitation to look into something deeper. And then I would like to quote Todd's amazing quote where he says that no story, no reactivity, no problem, and no suffering around it. And that was it for now. See you in the next lesson about the mirror of shaming. Thank you.